Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Here in person we have Mother Malini, Riel, here Govinda Prabhu, Radhini Shakti, Narayan, Ramachandra, and myself. And online there's Anandini. Eze is here too. In person, Anandini, Gajendra, Danielle and Saraswati, Dia, and Charlene. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, Text 37. Purushasya Mukham Brahma Brahmanas Shatam Etasya Bhavaha Purvo Vaishyaha Bhagavataha Harivyam Shudra Vyajayata Purushasya Mukham Brahma Shatrametasya Bhavaha Purvaishyo Bhagavata Padyam Shudro Vyajayata Purushasya Mukham Brahma Shatrametasya Bhavaha Purvaishyo Bhagavata Padyam Shudro Vyajayata Purushasya Mukham Brahma Shatrametasya Bhavaha Purvaishyo Bhagavata Padyam Shudro Vyajayata
Purushasya Mukham Brahma Shatrametasya Bhavaha Purvaishyo Bhagavata Padyam Shudro Vyajayata
Purushasya Mukham Brahma
Shatrametasya Bhavaha
Purvaishyo Bhagavata Padyam Shudro Vyajayata Purushasya
Mukham Brahma Shatrametasya Bhavaha Purvaishyo Bhagavata Padyam Shudro Vyajayata
Purushasya Mukham Brahma Shatrametasya Bhavaha Vaishyo Bhagavatam
Purvaishyo Bhagavatam
Patyam Shudro Vyajayata
Madhyam Shudro Vijayata
Purushasya Mukham Brahma
Purushasya Mukham Brahma
Kshatrametasya Bhava
Satyametasya Bhava
Purvavaishyo Bhagavata
Purvaishyo Bhagavata
Padvyam Shudro Vyajayata
Madhyam Shudro Vijayata
Purushasya Mukham Brahma
Purushasya Mukham Brahma
Kshatrametasya Bhava
Satyametasya Bhava
Purvavaishyo Bhagavata
Purvaishyo Bhagavatam
Padyam Shudro Vijayata
Madhyam Shudro Vijayata
Purushasya,
Purushasya
of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Mukham,
Ukam,
mouth.
mouth,
Rama
Brahma,
is the Brahmanas.
is the Brahmanas,
Kshatram,
Kshatram,
the royal order.
the royal order,
Etasya,
Etasya,
of him.
of him,
Bhavaha,
Bhava,
Bhava, the arms.
the arms,
Virgo,
Virgo,
the thighs.
the thighs,
Vaishya
Vaishya,
are the mercantile men.
or the mercantile men,
Bhagavata,
Bhagavata,
of the personality of Godhead.
of the personality of Godhead,
Bhadyam,
Padhyam,
from his legs.
from his legs,
Shudra,
Shudra,
the laborer class.
laborer class,
Yajayata,
Vyajayata,
became manifested.
became manifested.
Translation. The Brahmanas represent his mouth, the Kshatriyas his arms, the Vaishyas his thighs, and the Shudras are born of his legs. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. All living beings are stated to be the parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, and how they are so is explained in this verse. The four divisions of human society, namely the intelligent class, the Brahmanas, the administrative class, the Kshatriyas, the mercantile class, the Vaishyas, and the laborer class, the Shudras, are all in different parts of the body of the Lord. As such, no one is different from the Lord. The mouth of the body and the legs of the body are non-different constitutionally, but the mouth or the head of the body is qualitatively more important than the legs. At the same time, the mouth, the legs, the arms, and the thighs are all component parts of the body. These limbs of the body of the Lord are meant to serve the complete whole. The mouth is meant for speaking and eating. The arms are meant for the protection of the body. The legs are meant for carrying the body, and the waist of the body is meant for maintaining the body. The intelligent class of society, therefore, must speak on behalf of the body, as well as accept foodstuff to satisfy the hunger of the body. The hunger of the Lord is to accept the fruits of sacrifice. The Brahmanas, or the intelligent class, must be very expert in performing such sacrifices, and the subordinate classes must join in such sacrifices. To speak for the Supreme Lord means to glorify the Lord by means of propagating the knowledge of the Lord as it is, broadcasting the factual nature of the Lord and the factual position of all other parts of the whole body. The Brahmanas, therefore, are required to know the Vedas, or the ultimate source of knowledge. Veda means knowledge, and Anta means the end of it. According to Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is the source of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhava. And thus, the end of all knowledge, Vedanta, is to know the Lord and to know our relationship with him and to act according to that relationship only. The parts of the body are related to the body. Similarly, The living being must know his relationship with the Lord. The human life is meant for this purpose, namely to know the factual relationship of every living being with the Supreme Lord. Without knowing this relationship, the human life is spoiled. The intelligent class of men, the Brahmanas, are therefore especially responsible for broadcasting this knowledge of our relationship with the Lord and leading the general mass of people to the right path. The administrative class is meant for protecting the living beings so that they can serve this purpose. The mercantile class is meant for producing food grains and distributing them to the complete human society so that the whole population is given a chance to live comfortably and discharge the duties of human life. The mercantile class is also required to give protection to the cows in order to get sufficient milk and milk products, which alone can give the proper health and intelligence to maintain a civilization perfectly meant for knowledge of the ultimate truth. And the laborer class, who are neither intelligent nor powerful, can help by physical services to the other higher classes and thus be benefited by their cooperation. Therefore, the universe is a complete unit in relationship with the Lord, and without this relationship with the Lord, the whole human society is disturbed and is without any peace and prosperity. This is confirmed in the Vedas. Brahmano Syamukham Asid Bahuran Rajanya Krita. Omayanatimirandasya Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Nena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Mano Visham Savidam Yena Bhutale Svaya Rupa Kadamayam Dadapti Sva Vadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sahayanaragan Tam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahayan Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurande Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpata Yudhishta Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitinam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prakshani Vishesha Nagara The Brahmanas represent his mouth, the Kshatriyas his arms, the Vaishyas his thighs, and the Shudras are born of his legs. So, each soul that comes into a material body is given a personality or a psychophysical nature, and it's like perfect. It's perfect how we're like the vehicle we're given, and if we like totally like if we get to know and honor the vehicle that we're given at any particular lifetime, then we'll be in peace and we'll be creating peace in the world because we're like cooperating with nature. It's just the nature of the vehicle, you know, like for example, the vehicle I've been given, for whatever reason, is especially well suited for working with children, playing with children. And if I like cooperate with that, I'm really happy, and it's just like total bliss. And then it like supports others. It's just like a service that is a complete win-win if I like really honor that service. And I have other abilities and qualities too. Obviously, it's dynamic and it's diverse. We have various strengths that we can really honor and get to know and honor. And by doing that, we are, it's very peaceful for the soul to just be honoring the vehicle that we're given. And also it's just like a win-win for others. And it's also very inspiring to see people like in their element. So it's very uplifting if we honor the vehicles that we're given. And Krishna perfectly designed, not only is he orchestrating each of us individually and like giving us vehicles perfect for where we're at. So he's like really orchestrating everything very finely and beautifully. But he also created just like a structure for human society. And there are 4, these are called varnas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Varnas.
So there's 4 varnas that Krishna expertly set up to create another level of peace, to make things like function, because there's like things that need to be done in society when you're living in this human society. There's things that need to be taken care of, like we need to be protected, and we need to be guided properly. So the brahmanas are like they're the intelligent class. So the brahmanas are like, ideally the way Krishna designed it to be, there's spiritually intelligent people who are knowledgeable to guide society according to spiritual knowledge, according to scriptures. And in addition, we need protection. So the kshatriya class, they run like the government, or also protect with with military if there's needed to be there to be protection. And then there are 2 other groups of people that can help the society run nicely, which is the mercantile class, the Vaishyas, and the labor class, the Shudras. The mercantile class is in charge of agriculture and cow protection, as far as I understand, and maybe other crafts and making sure that, I guess, things are provided for society. And then the laborers work under all the other 3 classes to just do basic services. I might not be getting this correctly, so if you want to.
Yeah. Vaishyas, they also trade, business.
Trade, business.
Yeah, agriculture, kind of protection. Banking. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, there's some fine distinctions. I don't have that all memorized, but I do understand that there's like a peaceful way that we can live on the planet while we're here, and it's really simple and like laid out. And I think at the essence, it's like the only way to really like, the way I see it is the way that we can honor this system is by getting to know ourselves and honoring whatever we find. Like, whatever we find about the truth about ourselves. Like, this is my service, this is the vehicle I've been given, this is my nature. And it also includes not just like, it includes like getting to know your own desires, like, and so this, the way I see it, is like we need to do self-realization processes, and praying and meditating. I mean, chanting the Maha Mantra, mantra meditation, is a way to clear confusion or maybe like material desires out of the way so we can get to know ourselves and get to know the desires. And those desires, I mean, I don't know if they come from the soul, if they're, planted from Krishna. Like, I don't know exactly like the source of like inspiration, probably Krishna, but like, intuition and inspiration can come if we, quiet the mind and listen. And I think, well, we can sometimes be confused and have lots of tracks of ideas of what our service could possibly be. So personally, I find chanting the Maha Mantra, like for a long stretch of time, especially in the early morning, I can listen more clearly and feel more clear-headed, like, oh, yeah, I know my service. Like, it's not that dramatic, well, the, I want to say Yuga Dharma, does that mean like the,
Yugadharma is a term Prabhupada uses a lot.
Yeah, it means like the main service that if we listen to the Brahmanas, the intelligent class, the sages and saints and the spiritual master, the pure devotees, in the line of, anyway, I'm getting a little sidetracked in my mind, but yeah, if we listen to what the saints and sages say for us to do, our main service is chanting Hare Krishna and following the spiritual master, who is Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So he lays out really clearly like what we can do to be peaceful and to do service and to serve Krishna. So he lays out like a program that doesn't, Srila Prabhupada shared with us the Varna ashram system, and it's important to know it. And then there's just like this devotional path. There's direct devotional activities that are like kind of transcendental to all of the Varnas. Maybe I'm wrong. That's how I see it. Like,
you got it.
Yeah, like the spirit soul doing what it does in eternity is not permanently in like a class, a human class, because the soul isn't really meant to be in a human body forever. And, in eternity, we're glorifying the Lord and serving with genuine, loving devotion. Sri Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is not easy for me to say because that term is, I don't get it, but anyway, let's see. So I'm inspired to share with you a verse that I've been practicing to memorize. Savai punsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje ahai tukya patihata yayatma suprasidati, which is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 6, and that says the supreme occupation for all humanity is that by which men can attain loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be uninterrupted and unmotivated to completely satisfy the self. This verse is really exciting to me because it just feels like that's like real peace is serving God with all your heart. And I just feel like emotion when I'm told by, I don't know who the speaker is. I think, who's the speaker that says that verse?
Sutta Goswami.
Sutta Goswami.
Yes. He's speaking to the sages at Nameshwaram, headed by Shaunaka Rishi. It's spoken by Sutta Goswami.
Yeah. So I like the sober, clear, must. You know, he said like all, like such devotional service must be uninterrupted and unmotivated in order to completely satisfy the self. It's like I just feel when I get clear instructions, even strong language, for me, the effect it has is putting me in my place, like in the way that I need to be, because I can go off with my mind and come up with ideas. And so I like it when Srila Prabhupada or other speakers in these transcendental literatures speak really strongly. Personally, it's like, thank you, you know, I don't want to be like floundering out here making something up, you know, I want to know the truth, you know. That's how I feel when I'm like reading. I feel like grateful and put in my place in a really healthy way. Like, okay, so unmotivated and uninterrupted. What would that be like? And I feel interrupted a lot. I have children we homeschool, they're home, they're there, you know, they're there. And surprisingly, our children are really cooperative. Like, I wonder if they're gonna have a rebellious side, because right now they don't rebel, like, why are you still chanting? I want to feed me breakfast. They don't like, they just wake up and silently hold space for the whole morning program. They're not there, like they can't wake up, you know, later into like Guru Puja time. But anyway, but I, you know, throughout the day, definitely I'm interrupted constantly. And I mean, maybe ideally I should just be focusing on them. Then I'd be doing my psychophysical nature. I wouldn't feel so interrupted, but anyway. But there's no, I don't know the verse yet, I don't have this memorized, but there's no material impediment to devotional service. So even if I feel interrupted by something external, I can immediately be doing devotional service. So any interruption that I'm apparently experiencing from the external world, the interruption would be my consciousness of like, oh, you know, like resisting reality, like that, you know, like for example, children coming in, you need to help them. So I believe I'm responsible for like experiencing mixed motivations or experiencing that I'm interrupting my devotional service. And so that's a more empowering perspective, that I'm 100% responsible for being unmotivated and interrupting my devotional spirit, which is there, that I can tap into at any point. So it's much more empowering to think, yeah, how did I set this up? What could I do to be more determined in my devotional service, or more focused on my devotional service, or transform my motivation so that they're pure, and not be discouraged while attempting to follow the spiritual master and you know, live a peaceful life that's dovetailed with serving Krishna, how Lord Krishna and how Srila Prabhupada would like us to live, if we're endeavoring to sincerely follow them and their instructions. So I'm just sharing what I have to share, you know, like I'm not well studied in like Varnas and everything, but hopefully what I've been sharing is supportive and helpful. Prabhupada says, therefore, the universe is a complete unit in relationship with the Lord. And without this relationship with the Lord, the whole human society is disturbed and is without any peace and prosperity. Yeah, like what this makes me think of is like, well, I think the human condition having a materially conditioned mind means like we want to be in charge and we want to be in charge and we want to like be in control over like what happens in our life and what we do and what we get and the circumstances of our life. And even many people want the world to change and be what they wish it would be. Which is really like disturbing mentality, wishing that the reality was different than what it was. But with like a little bit of surrender and what do I want to say? I mean, okay, so like if someone is starting to experience like real frustration with their circumstances of their life or continually like wishing that things were different than what they are anyway, someone who's like kind of ready may start to like get frustrated with their material mind and ask questions. And from a place of like, okay, you know, maybe there's some other way I could approach life, or, you know, start to do more self-exploration, or like basically what I'm saying is through like attempting to surrender and attempting to ask questions, we can develop a sense of curiosity, a spirit of discovery, and maybe open up to spiritual knowledge. And anyway, I don't know if I need to describe how that can happen because it looks different for every individual, but through my experience has been through like deciding to be open-minded that there may be a God, that God may exist, and maybe I have a relationship with him, which was not comfortable at all, because previously I thought that I knew everything, and if there's a God, you know, then I would need to submit to that Lord of everything, the creator. So I was blocked to that for a while, and it was not comfortable at all to start to chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But I thought, I started asking friends, like, do you have a relationship with God? And some of my friends did, even my husband, and we never spoke about God. We got married, you know, and then he didn't care if I thought about God. And I didn't mind if he believed in God. We never talked about it. And then after the advanced seminar in 2014, I started talking about, I'm like, maybe there's a God, and I should if there is, that I thought that would be very unfortunate for me to spend my lifetime not having explored that relationship, you know. So, and then when I started to hear everyone I knew and loved believed in God, I'm like, okay, you know, what have I been doing? Why haven't you been helping me? But anyway, no one had any clear intention to help Dominique with God except for at the seminar. So thank you all very much. So anyway, so it wasn't very comfortable to pray to God and be open-hearted to the existence of a supreme Father, an eternal Father. But it felt comforting, the idea, and I thought I should try. So I emailed with Dear Govinda. He said the process to chant, and a couple of maybe even the 4 regular principles. He maybe even suggested those. Anyway, so I was like, all right, fine, I'll try. Lots of serendipitous things happened that whole summer. That was really like a spiritual awakening, and I became open-minded to whatever spiritual absolute truth is. And so I had a change of, I always felt dedicated to the absolute truth. I was like, I want the truth. I had this feeling since I was like 20. I want the truth. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's gonna break up a relationship, or I just had this feeling of that. So anyway, So what I want to share is having a spirit of discovery and open-mindedness to whatever God really has to say. Krishna shares guidance and instructions for humanity through different representatives. So I came in contact with Srila Prabhupada and decided to really hear from him and check out to see if I felt this was, someone I would want to take guidance from. And he's really kind of blew my mind, still does. He really appears to me to be a pure devotee of God. I can't apparently see that he has any other motivation. To me, Srila Prabhupada is unmotivated, also a good example of being uninterrupted with his devotional service. And actually, he appears to be very satisfied with himself. That's, so you can see that he's just totally full of confidence. So I was kind of getting to a point in a long way, but it was basically that I find this sort of interesting that we don't get to decide what we are or who we are. We just find out. We're not we just when you're awake and curious, oh, I'm in a body. Oh, I'm a spirit. Oh, what am I? Oh, it's just, there's not really creation, it's just discovery. Which is kind of it's what I was saying at the beginning of the class, that we only really get to just be curious who we are. And then if we want to honor what we find or resist what we find, that's our choice. But most likely we'll be frustrated if we're resisting reality of who we are. Even if we find out who I am is, I have these strengths, but really where I'm at. There's a difference between who you are and where you're at. Who you are, in essence, eternally. I take a stand that we're eternal servants of the absolute truth of God. And that's the eternal perspective of who we are. But then, we have these vehicles and we get to just find out what they are and honor them. And we can transcend the nature that we have been given. And ideally, we're not really attached to my psychophysical nature is this and I'm not that. We need to be flexible and be able to stretch into different services in our journey, serving Srila Prabhupada, serving God. So, but still, we have vehicles. They generally have limitations, and it's good to honor and respect them. And not just good, but that's how we'll be peaceful. And create peace for others so that they can also focus on their services and not really disturb society. And, kind of it's not just about ourselves being satisfied, but also serving other spirit souls. So that's all I'll share for now. Thank you for listening. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any comments or questions?
I'll just quickly share, hearing one part of what you said early in your class. It reminded me of someone I was talking to fairly recently. She's been practicing Bhakti Yoga for about 20 years. And she was telling me just almost exactly the way you said. She was saying that when she first started reading Prabhupada's books, she'd be really triggered by certain parts. And now she'll read those same parts that 15 years ago were so triggering for her. Now she reads those same parts and she says, "Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for being the only one who just tells it like it is." She just, "Thank you, Srila Prabhupada." And 15 years ago, she was like, "How could he say that?"
Yeah. Calling me a rascal or I don't know, I just love it. And I can respect that people are triggered, especially if they were in any way imposed upon with their spiritual life or otherwise. But I didn't have that. whether that's good or bad, I feel like I didn't have any direction, just totally like whatever you believe, whatever you want. And I'm like, that doesn't work. So please lay the truth on me. Sorry, but, I don't want to figure it out anymore.
I like it too when Prabhupada speaks like this. I'm reading Ishmael Bhagavatam, and there he says the sentence that the wife is like a witch.
The what?
Wife is like a witch.
The wife. Like a witch.
Yes. And I thought, like, it's so great. That's exactly me in my relationship to Yogeshwara.
Oh.
And it's like feels so good to like hear it, like this is how it is, and it's not like
materialistic one. Materialistic one.
oh you are still having some hopes and expectations.
Resisting reality.
Please.
But for me, it really was like, yeah, like what can I do anyway?
I know. I was reading purport and how I singled out a sentence. He said all these things. There's one sentence. Quote: "Household life is hell."
It is.
There it is. No escaping it.
Yeah.
And then it's like such a freedom to like the concept is like this, and like no matter how hard we are going to try to make it better or different or whatever, it's just like
It's disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the part of your class where you insisted on it came back as a film almost. Not as a film in the class. There was many films, but one of them was not resisting reality. Yeah, so like reading Household Life is Hell, then we have an opportunity to not resist reality anymore, and then hell become a lot easier.
It becomes easier.
Yeah, it become a lot easier when we come to accept it.
Well, that's it. That's the context. But the Bhagavatam, yeah, they're giving us the context, and it's not for us to become depressed that by living, at least a somewhat sattvic life, and preferably a transcendental life, then the material disturbances, the material miseries, they're still there, but the devotee is not disturbed. The nature of the material world is it's witchy, it's nasty, it's hellish. Yeah, it's miseries from our own body. It's disturbed. It's disease. It's the threat of death. So that won't change, although it is alleviated to the extent that we're in higher modes or transcendence, and mainly that, and even when they're there, which is constantly, then the devotee who you described, Ahetukipatiyata, the devotee who's absorbed in uninterrupted, unmotivated devotional service is not disturbed by them. In fact, he sees further opportunity to deepen my enthusiasm for Krishna consciousness. So yeah, the nature of this place is disturbing. And as long as we're like, well, no, if I just fix this, or if he would just change, and if I just get a raise, then then that's hopelessness, because that's the carrot on the stick. If we get this is a place of disturbance, and let me cultivate Krishna consciousness, and then we're not disturbed by the disturbances. Hare Krishna.
I really appreciated the emphasis on getting to know your vehicle. I thought that was really inspired. I have heard all my life that, I can be whatever I want to be when I grow up, and that I'm supposed to know what that is. What do you want to be when you grow up? And that's a lot of pressure for me as a kid and as an adult, and especially now at 33, to know what it is that I'm supposed to be when I grow up. And I'm now firmly under the impression that I am not supposed to be internally guided by my own mind or sense of self. I think for me, it's like I could be anywhere in the world. I just need to chant my rounds and wait for instructions. That's it. That's my go-to belief now. Yes, I could be anything I want to be if it's aligned with what God wants for me. So
Neil said, chant my rounds, wait for instructions, which I hear is chant my rounds and be open to the guidance from Prabhupada and Super Soul.
exactly. That's exactly right.
It's like you feel more relieved and less pressure under this paradigm of getting to know your vehicle. I'm distracted. It looks like you're moving. But, are you there, Danielle? It's frozen.
I'm here. I just have a 3-month-old.
Yeah, so it's like relieving for you to live in the paradigm.
It is. It's encouraging. It's suddenly I'm not the controller because I really don't have any idea what it is that I am supposed to be doing. You know, everyone around me was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a scientist. And I was like, well, all those things sound really cool. And I'm sure that I could, you know, like apply myself and become one of those things. But yeah, I don't feel particularly called to be any particular thing. You know, looking through the college course book, I was just like, wow, like there's a lot of options here. And I got no real inspiration, you know, and that's been plaguing me throughout the entirety of my adult life now. And it's very relieving to be like, well, just stay engaged. Just stay engaged in the process, chant the rounds.
Sorry.
Dominique shared, you can just be a devotee, which is not just, because that's, you know, we have all these other things, Brahmin, Kshatriya, I'll be an engineer, I'll be a lawyer. These are all temporary dharmas. And as you were saying, the eternal dharma of all souls is to be a devotee, is to engage in devotional service. And we don't want to get distracted by temporary dharmas. We don't want to neglect them, but yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Danielle. Narayan,
Yeah, it was kind of in relation to that, and just how much in Kali Yuga there's like so much mixed motivation and like so much desire, and like feel like I've been like marketed to and advertised to my whole life about what to be and how to be, and from a place of like materialism and making life about just sense enjoyment. And it does lead to a lot of confusion in myself and a lot of people. It's like, you know, like I know a few astrologers, and it's interesting to see how most of what I see them doing is like helping people identify, you know, their temporary sort of dharma. And so many people seem so miserable because they're just so out of where, like what serves them psychophysically in this lifetime, because of all this like pressure and thoughts about and expectations about who to become. And yeah, that's interesting. Another part of this for me is like I'm always right now I see like I've been having I used to have like a really hard time with the Bhagavatam, and then it got a lot easier for me to be in the spirit of discovery and a lot more accepting and open. And now I'm back to like feeling very resistant to it and triggered and like going to hopelessness. And I see it just has to do like my state of mind. I just feel like insecure in myself. I feel, yeah, it's just like this insecurity creates this, because like this verse and this purport, it just brings up like the caste system and like just the shadow side of this like perfectly logical structure that makes sense, but just how the human ego and ignorance, how it like pollutes this and creates something really violent and like
Oppressive.
Yeah, oppressive, and that doesn't take in it like that completely like forgets that we're souls having a human experience and just reduces it basically to the psychophysical nature. And yeah, and it's scary for me. Like it's when I'm feeling like insecure, and weak, then I react to like the places where I see that there's room for me or other people to like take advantage of spiritual knowledge and like use it for, which is basically all of it. Like it can all be used for our own greed and
For exploitative purposes.
yeah,
For evil.
yeah,
And it has been. And
yeah, and it has been.
this particular concept, the whole Varna ashram, but this is Varnas, and Prabhupada says, yeah, and then when the participants in the system become full of envy and hatred and greed, and then the so-called Brahmins want to keep others down, and the Sudras and Vaishyas are envious of this, they're not satisfied in their and then the so-called spiritual leaders become corrupt, then the whole thing becomes an ugly mess. And the actual system, it's not about corruption and exploitation. I really like how you say the actual system. This is a system of peace and cooperation, and it's a system for everyone to be happy because I'm doing the job I like to do. And it's like expert career guidance. And then when it's misused with wicked consciousness, it becomes ugly.
And there's, well, I just want to, I forgot where it is, but at some point I saw Srila Prabhupada saying that we're all Shudras in Kali Yuga.
We're all born Shudras.
Yeah. Yeah. A great equalizer.
A great equalizer, yeah.
It's reality, like it's dealing with reality. We think we are anybody else and Shudra. But what I wanted to say is that we can call it a system, or we can also call it reality, Chaturvanya. Like Krishna said, that's how we create it. So we can say, oh, there's a system of the rain, but most of the time we don't say there is a system of the rain, there's just rain. So Varnashram exists regardless. And operation of Varnashram also exists without knowing the Varnashram, like the whole communism is like a good example of that. Like all those caste systems and many philosophers without knowing the Veda come to the same conclusion because it's just reality. Some people are more tendency towards that. Some people, of course, in Kali Yuga, everybody is very disqualified in so many ways, at least spiritually. And at the same time, oppression happen with the Veda and without the Veda. It's just oppression.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. Like if somebody has a job like sweeping the street, like people will look at that person like he's a loser and he's slow and he's not intelligent, not making enough money. I love sweeping the street, but like in naturally without knowledge of Vedas or Ved, it's just like we choose like jobs that we like consider like low and jobs that we consider like high. But like in Krishna system, there is not like such a, they're all equally important. Like it doesn't mean if I'm a dentist or if I sweep a street, it's all equally important because it both needs to be done. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You had said something about when you about your consciousness changes how you perceive the teaching, the scriptures. I wonder if you wanted to share more about that.
Well, it's just like it's nice to admit, like, right, like the last few days, I even like questioned coming Bhagavatam because I just see myself go to like, oh my God, this stuff again, and like I just want to, I just so easily snap into this like hopelessness, and yeah, it's like it's relieving in a way to just see it as, from choices that I've made. Now I'm in like a certain state of mind, and my mind just easily goes to reactivity, hopelessness.
So you can separate from your experience. If you're having those thoughts and those feelings, but you find it much easier to manage when to say, oh, this is how my mind is condition right now and
Yeah.
not so much identify with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sharing.
I'm struck by how you're clearly the observer of what's happening in your mind and emotions,
Yeah.
and you have that clear observing perspective, and sometimes you're entangled in the mind and the thoughts and like that, but also it's very clear how you're also the observer. I'm sharing. It was my freshman year of undergrad college, and this discussion is reminding me of something. Even though I was an engineering major, but I took a philosophy course, and I remember the professor's name was Professor Lingus at Penn State College, Pennsylvania, and I was 17 years old, and it was like my first or second semester in college, and remember and I could see he was a far out guy. He had done acid and things like that. And yeah, he was cool. He was a cool professor. Anyhow, but in retrospect, he had a deep philosophical mind. And like he wasn't just, I could tell he really loved philosophy. It wasn't just like this was his job or something. Anyhow, so in the course of one story he shared, which stands out to me in this conversation, this professor line, it stuck with me 42 years. Okay, so he had traveled to India. Which, maybe he did that, before it was too popular, to do it now. So many people go to India. And so he traveled to India, and at one point, so he was really sick. It's a pretty common experience. Go to India, get really sick. I don't wish it on anyone, but that's pretty common. So he was really sick, and he was on some boat. Maybe he was on the Ganges or one of the rivers. And then he said, and he's a professor from a Western university, and so he was completely sick and just bedpan and like that. And he said that there was some lady, some Mataji, taking care of him, cleaning his bedpan and things like that. Street sweeper or less. And what he shared with us was like what he noticed was that this lady who was cleaning his bedpan, this ignorant fool intellectual from the West, this lady was cleaning his bedpan. It was just like, I'd never seen someone more peaceful and satisfied. Okay. She wasn't hankering for a bigger house. Not that he had so much talk to her, but he could see. I don't know if she chanted Hare Krishna or what, but he'd never experienced anyone on the planet more peaceful and satisfied. She knew her role. She was cultivating her eternal dharma clearly, and her role in this particular body at that time was to clean the bedpan of this fellow from Pennsylvania. And it struck him. It was a samskar for him. She was so peaceful, and he couldn't think of anyone in his life who could even match her depth of peace.
And that struck you too, huh?
It stuck with me. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
So what do we do now when we now you're saying that everyone is just confused, they don't know their nature and what's going to make them feel content and accomplished in life, like materially speaking. What to do from this position?
Well, focus on cultivating our eternal dharma. I'll share a story some of you heard from the late great Kalyapani. And so in 2004, Kalyapani, who passed away a little over a year ago, he was staffing Safatov courses in Ireland, in Belfast. Anyhow, he was staffing courses, and he came to me during a break of the advanced course, and everyone was clearing the room, and he came to me, and he looked at me, and he said, "This is Varnashram. which it meant a lot to me. Because first of all, I knew what he meant. But one thing, because like if you've been around devotee circles and classes, you hear a lot about how to apply and implement varnashram. And the conclusion is no one knows. And because you're different, like, everyone should go to the farms, or everyone should give money to the Brahmins, who's me. And you hear lots of things, and a lot of ideas how to implement. But so his point was, varnashram, like your class, varnashram means being humble and honest enough to meet ourselves where we're at, and that's the beginning. And so so that's it. Like to be willing to drop the masks and drop the need for my image in society and meet myself where I'm at, and then and experience that and contribute from there while cultivating our eternal dharma. And it's a good question in many ways, because first of all, there are some devotees who are establishing self-sufficiency communities and cow protection, and that's wonderful. That's not meant to be for most, but it's like, it doesn't work to try to artificially transplant Vedic society from 5,000 years ago to 21st century Florida or Europe or like that. So like, we really need to understand the principles. It's not going to work to have a shallow analysis, just like, let's say if we say, like, so I said back, my first major was engineering. So an engineer, what varna is that? There's no match. Let's say if someone's an engineer and their mentality is, I got my degree, I get a job, just work for someone, get my paycheck, okay, go, and then weekends I can watch the game, drink some beer, okay. All right, so that's kind of like a Sudra mentality, engineer. Let's say someone's an engineer and their idea is, yeah, I'm going to develop my own company, and I can so I get this contract with this one, and I can make a lot of money through this. So it's kind of a Vaishya mentality. Let's say someone's an engineer, and their idea is, I'll work my way up through the corporation, then I'll be the CEO, and I'll have 3,000 people working under me, and I'll get to control them and manage. It's Kshatriya mentality. Let's say someone's an engineer, and their real inspiration is like the essential principles behind the physics and the mathematics and the design and the effect that design of bridge and architecture and civil engineering has on consciousness. So then there's Brahminical. So like it's important to really get the essence of the principles, not try to just slap on some Vedic, from external Vedic concept to today, and to really get to the essence of ourselves, and to peel away all that which is extraneous, and to understand, okay, I'm the driver of the car, let me cultivate that realization. And what's the nature of my car? Not to be attached to it, but to accept it, and then to contribute from there. And so a lot of what we do in Sapphitor, whether one-on-one or in seminars or coach training, is to support people to get to their essence, recognize that, and contribute from there while cultivating transcendence.
You started your sharing with like the person saying this is Varnashram, and then before that I spaced out and I didn't hear what is Varnashram. Can you repeat it?
I was talking about Kalyapani,
Oh, yeah.
and he came to me during a break of a Sapphitor course that he was staffing in Ireland in 2004. All the participants were clearing the room, and they were just like big realizations, transformation, and like dropping masks and dropping armor. And he just came to me and said, this is Varnashram.
That's Varnashram.
People honestly knowing themselves.
Thank you.
I want to ask, what are some things that can support knowing oneself besides?
Sattva Samira.
It's just having clean mirrors and people
How about support of 7 minutes?
Maybe Sabbatical. Foundational. Well, I was thinking like simplicity,
Simplicity, these the qualities. Yeah.
and what else? Like simplicity,
Humility comes to mind.
simplicity. Yeah, those two things are really strong to help you see clearly.
Truthfulness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Humility includes sort of like honesty. Yeah, because if you're too busy, keep yourself busy, then it's hard to listen to find out who am I, what's my service.
No, then we're not hearing super self. We're not hearing others who might have some wise feedback for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's like reminds me of the study you had from Edu Foundational Seminar after the obstacle process with a woman who couldn't beat up her obstacles.
Yeah.
And then she became all resentful, and then she had the realization that the goal wasn't her goal. But like she kind of was fortunate enough that she couldn't achieve the goal, and then she had the realization, oh, that's because it's not my goal.
Yeah.
But I think most people like achieve goals that are not their goals, and then they get stuck in it.
Yeah.
So it's like the social, family, whatever push to do something.
Yeah.
that
Now
you don't want.
I just invested in 8 years of college or 10 years to get trained in this, and I'm successful and I'm making a living, and I need to pay the mortgage. Now I'm stuck for this lifetime.
Exactly.
And inside I know I'm really unhappy. I'm really not satisfied.
Yeah, and it starts like, well, my parents want me to go to the college, so I go to the college, and then I have the debt, and then I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We're smiling, but it's a tragedy that happens to hundreds of millions of people.
It's probably underestimated.
Yeah.
Anandini, did you want to share something?
Yes, mainly to participate in the communication here, the conversation. Now, and I was thinking, like listening to you, Dominique, you made it so clear to me about, if we just like find what we love to do, what we're made to do, like what our psychophysical nature naturally is gifted to do, then we experience bliss, happiness, fulfillment. It was so clear, and just hearing others share. And I was thinking a lot about our homeschooling project here, and how recently, my experience that I never ask children, like, what do you want to become? And I see that I never ask. I did ask the question for the first time yesterday, because there's a little boy who might come to join us. And I asked him because I was interested to see if he thinks in that way. And his answer was, no, I don't know. I like to be creative. And I can see that those kids, they're not focused on what do I want to become? What do I want to present? They're more looking for what do they like to do? What gives them pleasure, enjoyment, growth? And then from that, they like for example, Anouk, our daughter, she discovered her interest for horses, and she loves to be with horses, and she loves to teach. She loves to show others things. So she's going in that direction. And naturally the question came also, how do I finance this? Mm-hmm. And then she started to think about, I love baking. So she bakes cookies and sells prasadam cookies on a market once a month. And so that's her approach. Where do I feel happy? Where do I feel joy? And how can I get there? So that was going through my mind as something we can do as just as a mother or as a father, or to support this, like the natural, the original Varnashram, how it's meant. And something else that also went through my mind with the question, how can we, I think Ramchandra, you asked the question. And recently I've been telling the children a lot of stories, and a lot of them from the Bhagavatam, just giving them an idea of the personalities. And they learn English by with Rama, Sita and Rama, written by Rinda from Alachua. And it's so impressive how they take to the story. And recently we were discussing Second World War, which is like, yeah, like a very emotional, terrible topic in some ways. But they immediately made parallels. Oh, Ravana, he's a demon. He's like Hitler. So they made parallels. And it didn't become such a like a heavy pressed topic anymore, because they embedded all the Second World War themes into the story, the Leela of Rama and Sita and Ravana. And I could see that they, in their, for their mind or their intelligence, to have this bigger view of, okay, there's Ravana, a demon, and there's also Rama, Vishnu, God, who's taking care of it all. And Ravana, it was terrible what he did, and it was terrible what Hitler did. But in the context, and does it make sense what I'm saying? In the context of the Vedas, it didn't seem so hopeless.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it sounds like your work with your children and other children, like it simplifies these big principles for you. And you can just see like the soul, like the children make distinctions and have realizations, and there's like a simplicity in how the child's mind, deals with reality and comes up with solutions. That's kind of what I'm hearing. It's inspiring to see how children who aren't fully like conditioned the way some of us are, like how they have realizations and in more detail. It sounds like, yeah, like reading the story, like absorbing ourselves in Srimad Bhagavatam and the pastimes of the Lord. It's like inspiring and soothing.
Yeah, I guess till now it was more like, okay, hear about Krishna. Yes, in some way it makes sense. But with this example with the children, I can see how it affects their psychology. And it makes life a lot easier for them, I think, than it was for me, for example, who I read a lot about Second World War, and it was so depressing.
You're experiencing Krishna consciousness applied, and how the Bhagavatam paradigm and Krishna consciousness, you can see it's giving your children a context to understand world events that's so much fuller and more enriching, and not just depressing, mundane, world violent news.
Mm-hmm.
Hare Krishna.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, if, like, when we, like, in the process finding, like, our, like, or redefining our psychophysical nature, like, if, let's say, if I think, well, it doesn't matter what I end up doing, I'm gonna do it for Krishna. Like, does it matter what I do then, or like how that in relationship to Krishna consciousness? To say, if I dovetail whatever I consider my psychophysical nature to be, will it be adjusted with the fact that I'm dovetailing it in Krishna consciousness, or is still it's something that needs to be taken into consideration what I dovetail in Krishna consciousness?
I have a thought.
Yeah.
That I mean, it's just intuition idea, but if you're authentic, like if it's genuine, like it's simple, it's coming from a simple-hearted, genuine place, then I think you can do anything.
Mhm.
Obviously, if Krishna doesn't want you to do that, then he'll arrange things differently, so you're placed somewhere else. I don't know if that's really like what you would say, but
I like it. It's, I mean, not like I like, not about me. It's,
Well,
but
curious.
it's completely Shastra. Yeah, in mundane, or just okay. Sometimes it's said, follow your passion. That's there, but sometimes better advice is bring your passion with you. Means, okay, we don't use the term enthusiasm, because like, sure, we want to notice our psychophysical nature and like that, and okay, and you know, endeavor to create something that's aligned with that. And then let's say we find ourselves doing something that, according to my mental mind, that like, well, this isn't aligned. Okay, whatever, because we've all had periods of life, big periods of life like that, whatever. So wherever we find ourselves, let's bring our enthusiasm for devotional service with us. And then what I'm doing, it's not aligned, it is aligned, whatever. And it doesn't mean to ignore our psychophysical nature. And I mean, yeah, sure, let's endeavor to create a situation where I'm satisfied. So it's like an integration of being willing to do the needful for Krishna consciousness, do the needful for Prabhupada's movement now, today, this year, whatever my psychophysical nature, and simultaneously noticing the type of car I'm in and endeavoring to dovetail that. And when that attempt at dovetailing is not perfect, maybe it's only 90%, or it's only 10%, whatever, bring my enthusiasm for devotional service with me. It's like both integrated.
Almost everything.
What's that?
Almost everything. Let's say I like to be a hunter.
Yeah.
So it will be probably hard to dovetail it in Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, there are some things like, yeah, some things just, let's just give that up. Yeah. Right. Because otherwise, well, one thing, if we've seen, like, if someone is artificially, and I'll just do the needful, but it's not real, and then there's the saying, chant and be happy. Well, I'm not happy, like that, because there's too much denial of what my psychophysical nature is. On the other hand, we can see, like, it could be like, well, I can't really chant my rounds till I'm properly situated. I can't really study Bhagavad Gita. I can't really come to morning program till I'm properly situated. Like, okay, then we're using psychophysical nature as an excuse to avoid cultivating our eternal dharma. A story some of you have heard me tell. This was back maybe 2014, and my daughter Sita was living with me for about a year at that time. And so one day I came in, and her room's a complete mess. Like, her room's just a complete mess in all ways. So I walk into her room and I say, Sita, I'd really like you to be more Brahminical. And she said, Dad, you're asking me to act against my psychophysical nature. So I thought it was a very Brahminical response, because only someone with a sharp cleverness could respond like that. So in other words, like, how can I clean my room? It's not my nature. Like that.
So the other extreme, the first extreme you mentioned.
The first extreme is in the name of, I'm just doing the needful. I'm just completely surrendered. Okay. All right. Well, if we're really there, great. If we're really there, great. But if we're pretending to be there, then in the name, I'm just completely surrendered, and I'm just doing the needful. I'm transcended to my psychophysical nature. But then we notice that we're depressed, we're angry, we're resentful, we're bitter, we're feeling depleted, because I serve so much. My service is unmotivated and uninterrupted. Okay, well then how come you're like stressed out all the time, and how come you're so triggered if someone says like good morning or something? Yeah, because maybe we need to pay more attention to what's going to really satisfy my particular mind and body.
When, like a couple of years ago, I thought, oh, I want to be a parenting coach. And I was like excited and trying to push for it and make it happen that I was like a parenting coach. But like everything wasn't working. I didn't have like the money or time or whatever. Anyway, then like my husband got into like a car accident, and then he couldn't work for months, and I had to work. So I set aside like I don't know, 10 months I was like working and making all the income for our family. But prior to that, I was like, you know what? It's not even like, I don't know, just like not like feeling right that I was trying to pursue this like parenting coach career. So I stopped everything. And so prior to the husband getting into this, I stopped everything, and I was like, I'm just gonna pause. Like, it's not feeling right. I feel like I'm in the mode of passion, and I'm pushing to make something happen that I think I should do, and I would be good at doing. And I always work with children, and I have all this passion for the topic of parenting and raising children. But it wasn't working out, and so I would just pause, and I was like, maybe I'll just chant and like be a mom, like forget it, like or maybe I'm supposed to pour concrete statues with my husband because we're gonna have a family art business, and I'll do that. I'm like, whatever. Like, I don't want to be disturbed and in the mode of passion. So, but I feel like it just wasn't time. I don't really know what. I still don't. I feel like it's such a journey, like discovering, like landing in your place. I don't know. It's for me. Even still, I'm still reconsidering like that service. But I did spend a year like working for my husband, for a family, to make money. Now I'm kind of like back into homeschooling. I'm still working.
It's a dynamic thing.
It's like it's like a story, and like it's like Krishna's like giving us hints and stuff, and and then all of a sudden, like a few months ago, I went to this event and I just cried, like I listened to this music that was being performed by a Sapato graduate, and the music just made me like feel like so much truth about my nature as a servant of children. Really, not so much parents. It's really like I just have this energy and desire to serve children. It's like, okay, I'm gonna push to do coaching and get like I don't know, like this thing, like everything got in the way of doing that service, and now I'm paused again, and like creating a parent and like maybe parenting coach is just what I think I should do because everyone around me is coaches. And actually, like I'm really like more of an artist by nature, and I like to create things. I like to make things happen more than like coaching. So I'm just like questioning, maybe it's still the service to children, but like creating things and like making things happen instead of like sitting and coaching. So anyway, I had such a journey. I'm just saying, like, I just still don't quite know like how it will all land, but I still have a sense like of who I am, Experiment.
Hare Krishna. I just wanted to share one more thing. I've been reading The Art of Spiritual Life by Samya Marani. I don't know if you guys can see it. And one of the first things she talks about is after kind of hanging out at the temple for a while, one of her godbrothers, Rancora, comes up to her and says, hey, the Swami wants to know like what you're good at. Like, what do you do? And she's like, well, I like art. She's like, I painted some stuff while I was on LSD a couple times, and I went to a high school that had a focus on art. And he's like, okay, I'll just let the Swami know, no problem. And so then Prabhupada starts asking her if she can start painting reproductions of Indian art prints and to get with Garga Muni, and he'll give her all the supplies she needs for the art, like the money to buy the art supplies. So for me, that's a very funny story because she basically had no qualifications whatsoever except for like a simple sincerity, like a real desire to serve through this art that she likes doing. And it ended up, like hugely beneficial for me. Even now, like looking at her paintings, I get so much inspiration. So I guess for me, it's very heartening and enlivening to see Prabhupada engaging people far beyond their own human capacity with just like a simple love to serve him.
Thanks, Danielle. Hare Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna.